Hello everyone, Bill Parish here from GTT Audio, and welcome to the channel today. Well, today is going to be a rather short video and a little bit of a refresher course. Way back in episode 18, I knew I had done a video on this, but then looking at it, I mean, literally 100 episodes from today, so 4 years ago, I did an episode on how to connect your loudspeakers. Now, I'm not going to repeat everything, but what brought this up is yesterday, Double D, which is Dick Diamond, that's my name for him, my good buddy who works with me here at GTT. You've seen him several times on the channel. We were on the phone and something came up and so reviewer got this pair of speakers, and then we start, looking, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And this particular pair of speakers, which we know, they have the speaker wire. It's bi-wireable, which is a good thing. But the speaker wire is going to the bass terminals, and they're jumping to the mids and the highs. Cover this like 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the episode 18. You should go back and watch episode 18. In any case, you always want to, well, with a few exceptions, I suppose, but 85%, probably more, and this is not a disputable number. It's not an arbitrary number. You can look at a spectrum analyzer of where the music is, and 85% of music recorded today is in the mid-band. It's in the mid-band. So if you have a pair of speakers that have binding posts for the tweeter, for the mid-range, and the woofer, and you're going to use a single set of speaker cable, that goes to the mid-range. You jump to the highs, you jump to the lows. If you have a set of binding posts that covers the bass and the highs, meaning mids and highs, mids and tweeters, mid-range, mid-bass, tweeter, and then a separate binding post for the woofer, you go to the highs, you jump to the woofers. Always, always, always land the current, land the direct signal right on the mid-range. If you have a bass freak who wants the highs down a bit and wants emphasis on the bass, well, then go ahead and put it on the bass, I suppose. But you're going to get the maximum amount of clarity then landing right on that mid-band. And I mean, we were just with a professional reviewer and a professional company hooking up that way. I mean, Dick and I were just, we were a little speechless. After a chuckle or two, it's sad. It's sad. I mean, Dick and I, and this is not touting our own horn, but, this is our 30th year. Our 30th year in business. What is it? 50 years of being in the hobby. And then probably even more. Dick has been in the business for 40 years, thereabouts. He's older than me. He's been in the hobby a lot longer. I mean, we've forgotten most of the stuff that the new guys have out there. But, it's really incredible that some of the amateur mistakes that we see in the industry. You guys really should get a good guide that you trust, that you can work with and take you, down the path through the journey of audio. I see a lot of things, a lot of guys, and, hey, people like to do things themselves, and that's not a fault, and that's okay. But it can be a lot more expensive that way, even if you're buying pre-owned. Unless you like opening boxes and repacking things and listing things on websites and dealing with, well, a lot of the inquiries that come in. Unless that's your thing, it's a lot. You save a lot of time. You spend less money. You certainly spend less energy. Working with a guide that like myself or Dick. There's a shameless plug, but or another owner of a store, other sales guys at stores. Work with them, work with some people that have been down this road and know some things. There's all right, we're off the subject of how to connect your speakers. For a full lesson on that, go back to episode 18. But please, if you're landing binding post, if you have a single set of speaker cables, land it on the mid-range. Enough said on that. Now there's some people, I mean, we've all heard more money than sense, that old saying, but we see it a lot in audio, and it's not really their fault, except for they just don't have that guide. And just because you go out and, I don't know, everything that you buy is going to be on 100K, okay? So you buy $100,000 preamp, $100,000 DAC, $100,000 turntable, and amplifier, preamplifier, speakers. So I don't know, what's that? You got $800,000. Does not mean that your system's going to sound good. There's a synergy there. There is a synergy, and you need to sort of. What are you after? I mean, we're always after the real thing here at GTT and trying to recreate that snapshot of what real is. So that's what I would be going for. But there's some people that want warm and syrupy, and there's other people that want things bass heavy, and some people. I mean, I have one guy that comes in and he wants it so shrill, and tells me this, brings his own cables in because my cables won't do it. In any case, at least he knows what he wants. But some guys just, cobble together a bunch of expensive stuff and expect it to sound just absolutely glorious. And that's not how it works. Sometimes you can, in fact, it is much harder to get an expensive system and a big system. Let's call it that. It's much harder. The bigger the components, the more it costs usually, and it's much harder to get a big system to sound good than a small system. Small systems can sound great. I mean, my desktop system with a pair of Genelec 3s as the speakers sounds absolutely fantastic. But then you start getting amplifiers and DACs and preamps and cables and passive speakers and room modes and everything else, and it becomes much more difficult. So, when you're working with a guide, he usually, hopefully, if you've heard something at his place that sounds really good, or he has a reputation of setting up a great system, well then, maybe he knows what gear goes good together and can pick it out. Because I can tell you that, most of you, I am sure, can't listen to a system until you could say, okay, that's a good system, and that's great. And, some say that's a great system, I want that, and they buy that. Then there's been guys that says, well, that's a great system. I'll spend more money, and I'll get a better system, and that usually never works. But if someone you trust that you're working with tells you that this gear works with this and this gear works with that. Oh, what I was going to say is, I bet most of you can't go into a system and tell you and say what's making the sound. It obviously all is, but what are the speakers doing? What is the preamp doing? What is the DAC bringing to the table? What does the amplifier do? Most people don't know what each individual piece does, and therefore it's very hard, and that's why you need the guide. Now, some of us more experienced guides, if you will, do know. I know what a DAC does, so I can sit down and listen to a system, and I know what the DAC is doing. I know how a preamp interacts in a system, how an amplifier does. I usually know the sound of things in front of a pair of speakers, so if I can hear that, I know the speakers are transparent, and so on and so on and so forth. So you get a lot of that with experience, but it's not a matter of click to buy and do that 10 times and all of a sudden you have a great synergistic system. That's not how building an audio system works. Well, in any case, little refresher course. Don't take it too serious. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.